Hey guys, True Grit Scott, Bulletproof Saws and Bluesaws.com. Hopefully I got my microphone. I got it over here. I forget where I had it in the last video, but as soon as it brushes up against something, it blows your ears out. I hate the microphone, but I want you guys to be able to hear me, so I'll figure it out. Maybe I need a necklace and I throw it on the back of me, because if you put it right here, it's way too loud. If I put it here, it's way too loud. I'm hoping having it down there is gonna help with the sound, and hopefully I don't bump into anything. I'm back out with a couple of 366 Farmertech G366s that I'm doing some work on. I have two customers. Both of these have to go out tomorrow, but I want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about flywheels, different cylinders. You've seen the muff mods before that we're doing, and I'm going to tell you guys, I braze these together, and I'm having, I don't know if it's an issue because I've seen it on other mufflers before where guys braze them, but it almost seems like I'll braze it together, I'll spray it quick with paint, and then it almost seems like the flux migrates back out through the paint, and you can rub it off, and you need to like touch it up with paint again. Seems after a couple heat cycles that starts to go away. If you run it on the saw bunch and then paint it, it's better. I don't know if anybody has a solution to a flux migrating out of it, so I'm not sure about that, but I don't tell people I'm a welder. I say a grinder and paint makes me the welder I ain't. But I can braze these. They do get stuck together, and the only reason I know that they're fairly durable is I'll hit them with the wire wheel on a bench grinder, and I got a big 100-year-old bench grinder, and that wire wheel's spinning on that thing, and I'll clean it up, all the burn marks or some brazing stuff or whatever, and I'll hit it with the wire wheel real quick, and sometimes it'll grab it and throw it out of my hand onto the ground. And it's slamming them off the ground, and they're holding together. So if they're, it's almost like one of those baseball pitching things. When that wire wheel takes it, it just pitches it and it slams. So we've done pretty good, and I'm surprised I haven't dented these up. I hold on to them, but once in a while it gets me. It'll get caught on something and throw these mufflers. But what else I wanted to talk about was the two different cylinders, intake boots, flywheel. Those are the big things that I wanted to talk to you guys about today. The first thing I'm going to tell you is over the last 2 years, and I don't know when it happened exactly, Farmertech changed these, and it's such a slight change. You never know it unless you were looking for it, but I was looking for it. What happened a few years ago on a lot of these is where your intake boot mates up to your carb and your carb's pushing against it. What was happening is this lip here was a little bit thin, and it wasn't making a good seal on the carb, so you'd have air leaky problems. So since then, these both are pre-built saws. They both have an intake boot that's not bad, but we swapped these out for these other ones, and when you look at this, I don't think I can show you this on video. I'll give it a whirl. But what I'm going to tell you is this one has about 20 thousandths more thickness on it. And that 20 thousandths, is it totally necessary? Listen, if you got one, you didn't do anything to it, you didn't swap the intake boot, you probably won't have a problem. But I liked a little bit of extra meat on that intake boot, and I think it rules out an issue that I've seen, so I do it. I also like the rubber on these. One thing to note with any of these aftermarket intake boots, look inside of them, because sometimes they'll have rubber flashing that they leave behind that you need to pull out of there, cut out of there, get out of there, because you can have a flap of rubber actually closing off your intake boot if it's ridiculous. I haven't seen one like that in a while, but sometimes they, leave that in there. So make sure you look in these things before you use them. I'll try to get this on video. I don't think it's going to work, guys, because I actually have to have the calipers to see it. I'm guessing we're not going to be able to see it here. But that's a stock Farmertech one on there. And this is the aftermarket one I use. And I'm telling you, it's literally only 20 thousandths of a difference between the two. So with that, I don't know. Can you see that? Is it focusing even? You'll have to take my word that there's 20 thousandths more meat on that. And the rubber's a little bit thicker, and thicker doesn't always mean better. I've just had good luck with these, so I use them. The other thing I was going to talk to you about is right now, and what are we, October? This might actually be Halloween or darn close to Halloween of 2023. I'm seeing two different cylinders on these saws, and I have a little bit of opinion, but I don't have a strong opinion on it yet. I have these, what I call them, and I'll show you again. I don't know how to do this better, guys. I'm not a video guy. Hopefully you could see right there that little, and you'll see that on the Pro cylinders. You'll see that on some different ones. Those, we call them the pi symbol cylinders, the Hanakawa cylinders. I like a lot of these. I don't like them all, and I've seen some batches that I didn't like, but overall, they seem to be a really nice cylinder. This one doesn't have the mark, and it's damn hard for me to tell the difference. If you shave the mark off of this one, you know, there's a little bit of a difference in color, but that doesn't matter. The plating looks the same. The port locations look very much the same. The ports look the same. What I will say is, God, it looks like they did a little more beveling of the edges on the Hanakawa cylinder. How much that matters, because these aren't bad either. The other thing that I did notice is that the base of the cylinder, I think there was 30 thousandths difference between the two, so that's going to affect your squish a little bit, whether you can maybe do a base gasket delete or not do a base gasket delete. So it's just something to be aware of, that there's differences, but they're both nice cylinders, and I'm pretty sure that the Blue 361, that the one that I'm using for firewood, has the non-Hawakawa cylinder, and that thing has ran really good for me. Don't have an opinion yet. Something I'm watching, and by the time I figure it out, it'll probably change again anyway. So for what it's worth. The other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is I've had a cut. I get to see volumes of these saws where a lot of guys, they'll see 5, 6, 7 of these saws over the course of years. I'll see that real quick. So I see so many of them. I've had a couple where the flywheel nut wasn't tight enough. And then I've had, and I think that these were kits actually, where maybe the crank was machined, like they must have a tolerance on it, and maybe it was the low end of the tolerance, and the flywheel was at the high end of the tolerance, and it gave me a little more shimmy there than I wanted. So check your flywheels real quick. Make sure the nuts tighten down. Make sure that that friction fit is mating real good. Kind of little things and nitpicky things, and you know, maybe it's 2 out of 500 that happens to. Is it worth telling you? No, it's just something you see as you go through a whole lot of these saws. You start seeing things, and does it help you? I don't know, but it gives you something to look for. Intake boot, cylinders don't have an opinion. Check your flywheel. Oh, one other thing. So I talked about that manifold, how it intake boot manifold, how it crushes up against the carb to seal. So you might get an air leak there, and we went through that. But there was another air leak I had, and it was actually on my firewood saw. I'm running it, and it's sounding air leaky all of a sudden. Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? I don't know. I had 8 cords through that saw, not a whole lot, so I was kind of not real happy. But again, that saw I never touched anything on. I did a base gasket delete. I did a muffler mod, but I never really went through the saw and gave it a hard look. I just ran it the way it came out of the box. So what it turned out being on that, and I found it real quick, because a lot of times, as soon as I have a problem, I start ripping into saws. I rip everything off them. I'll pressure test them. I'll do this, that, and the other thing. And I took a breath and said, you know what? Let me go easy here. Let me, think tank vent things or fuel filter things or who knows what. What it turned out being was the fuel line where it go. I should have brought a carb out with me. Where it pushes onto the carb, it pushed on so far it was at the curved part of the little brass nipple, and it was letting a little bit of air weep in. And that's all that air leak was. I kind of pulled that fuel line back a little bit off of that carb nipple, cleared it right up, 2 seconds, super easy fix. And I don't know, maybe those lines could be shorter. Maybe I could trim the end of it so it fits on there better, and that can't happen, but it's such not a common thing. But if you get an air leaky symptom, think manifold intake boot and think fuel line fitting on there correct. And I know guys have had, over the years, and I haven't heard about it lately, but I'm not saying it doesn't happen. Maybe I haven't heard about it, is the tank vents. Some guys had problems with tank vents. The other thing I'm going to tell you is there was a new style decomp on these, and it was a darn good looking decomp. And I actually had this saw running. I ran it right out of the box just to see how it was before I broke it apart. And when I used that decomp, I couldn't get it to prime on choke, pull it out, and immediately the saw fires. So I'm plugging both of these, and it's a beautiful looking new decomp. I don't know if the decomp was bad, something goofy. I have no idea, so I'm going to figure that out too. And I know we all love, hate decomps. I like them on a lot of saws. If they're going to seal and they're going to work right, I love them. I just don't like them when they don't work right. And I've had problems with Husky ones, steel ones, definitely aftermarket ones. We got a bunch of highway ones that have worked very good for us. But then again, I've had other parts that worked for a long time and then all of a sudden they changed something. So for what it's worth, guys, that was it. That was just my quick little video. I don't think I had anything else on these to talk to you about. I think that was it. I figured I'd take it. My days are dwindling where I'm going to be outside, and I've been cleaning out the shop, so now that's in total disarray. So we'll get back in the shop with the wood stove where it's nice and warm. It's probably 35 degrees out here. It's a little bit cool, and that's like 35 normal degrees, not the Celsius degrees that makes infinite sense, but we don't use that. So anyhow, guys, True Grit Scott, Bulletproof Saws, and Bluesaws.com. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Boy, I talk too much. Probably already did.